Since TikTok's retired, he's home and fat and very happy. Gold medal at Sydney, and TikTok double gold medal. It's been a dream come true.
No one in the world has bred two Olympic gold medal horses, let alone from the same mare. And she goes back to Dinah, little black mare that Grandad bought for £2.10.
Hello, my name's Wayne Roycroft. I coach Australia's Olympic equestrian team. Australia's been amazingly successful in international equestrian events. But it wasn't always that way. We struggled until we hit upon a world-class combination. It all started with a horsewoman in rural New South Wales. She's Hyem, and this is her story.
Steady, come on. Steady. Steady, TikTok. Good old lad. You gorgeous old thing.
Yeah, old TikTok. Dear old fella, he's getting on in years now. He'd be the equivalent of about an 80-year-old. He's 24. But he still gets around like a 2-year-old.
Good.
TikTok's been a wonderful horse for me. He's helped me get through a lot of very, very difficult times. With him there, it was always just an inspiration to me to keep going.
Oh, TikTok's success has brought Mum immense joy. She just thrives on it. And she's got belief now, I think, in her ability to breed, and that bloodline is unbelievably good. And you really realise that you're sitting on gold, basically. Pardon the pun.
Of course, the whole TikTok story started way back in early 1940, when I was only a very young girl. This mob of cattle came along, and Dad wandered over to the fence to talk to the drover, and he saw this nice black mare with a few white socks, and he was looking for a horse at the time to do stock work on. And he said to the drover, well, I like the look of that mare. Is she for sale? He said, oh, yes, you can have her for £2. So he forked £2 out of his pocket and got me to take the mare back home. Taking a liking to that mare was just an absolute fluke. It just happened to be the right mare to buy, especially when we bred all this wonderful line of horses from her.
Feeling better, eh? Oh, TikTok. Well, good to be on you again. Okay.
I think Mum would have done whatever she wanted to do in life, that she chose equestrian and became the best at that at the time, because she's so determined, so focused, and she wanted to be good at whatever she could.
Well, she was just a true horseman. I think that's the best way to sum it up, and she could cope with any situation, and riding horses, they can get into all sorts of trouble, and particularly in show jumping, the bigger the fences, the bigger the problems, and she was an outstanding show jumper.
The challenge of jumping was just absolutely wonderful, and we had a lot of really good riders in the Hunter Valley. And to beat those men was wonderful, because I used to go out and beat the socks off them quite a few times. It was at Singleton Show one year that I had quite a bit of good luck with my riding, and I was asked to ride some horses for Bill Hyem. Bill was picked as the captain of the Australian show jumping team that went to New Zealand, and that sort of started a friendship that lasted for quite some time.
Well, I think horses brought them together. Bill owned Coronation, that very good show jumping horse, and from the moment he acquired Coronation, Bud was riding him, and horses for courses, and I guess that's what happened when the horses brought them together.
Dad decided to spend most of his time on Kibah and run the farm, and handed over the reins of coronation to Mum. So she continued riding him that year, and then was selected to go in the first show jumping team to Tokyo and be the first female equestrian to represent Australia. Mum is a very shy person. She hates big noting herself. She's very, very modest. We didn't even know she'd been in the Olympics until I was about 11. And a child at primary school said, your mother's been in the Olympics. And I was like, no, she hasn't.
We all put on a ship at Brisbane, and it was the most wonderful trip. The horses were in boxes on top of the deck, and in the middle of the deck there was this big sand arena with high walls so they couldn't be washed overboard or anything like that. And we arrived in really good condition.
October 10, 1964, the opening ceremony of the 18th Olympic Games in Tokyo. The Tokyo National Olympic Stadium is crowded with 70,000 spectators.
Being the first woman, I was sort of rather worried that, I wouldn't sort of be able to uphold my end, but we did. We had a marvellous time. I was very pleased with the result, about 16th or something, I think, but it was, not too far behind. We had one refusal at a jump, which was my fault entirely, not the horses, and a foot in a water jump, which was very, very wide, 19-foot wide water jump. Yeah, we just put one little foot in it, and so that was that. Well, it was very exciting after the Games because Bill and I had planned to get married over in Tokyo. I had no intention of ever walking down the aisle. I just didn't that wasn't me.
Yeah, Mum was too shy to get married in front of a lot of people. So after the show jumping finished, they got married in the embassy in Tokyo. And after that, they came back to Kibah and settled down, and I came along about 10 months later. So Mum's competitive career slowed down after that.
Yeah, well, after Bill and I came home, and we decided to have a family of our own, and also to keep on breeding our horses, because I had my bloodlines from that black mare that Dad bought for £2 many, many years ago. And so with his bloodlines and my ones that I'd introduced, we bred some marvellous horses. And I had my 3 children, Lisa, James and Barnaby. And, life seemed to be pretty good.
They were married for 12 and a half years, I think, before Dad died. He died in 1977.
Bill had been always a smoker. Well, he'd started during the war over in England, I suppose. He was a fighter pilot. When he got sicker and sicker from emphysema, he didn't want to go into hospital because he was terrified of hospitals, quite frankly. But I must admit, with 3 little children, I found it very, very difficult and insisted on the end, said his doctor. And we put him in hospital, and 4 days later he was dead. It was very, very sad.
It was a momentous weight put on her shoulders the moment Bill died, because she had a young family that she had to bring up, a magnificent property of some 8,000 to 10,000 acres that she had to try and run that as well, which I may add she did very, very, very capably. Someone had to run it, and all that was thrown onto her shoulders. So I think her achievements out there have been quite outstanding.
When he died, of course, the death duties were still on, and it was a horrible thought of trying to find all this money or borrowing money to pay these death duties. I wasn't the first one to be caught like this. There have been thousands of country families who have been absolutely ruined by it. Anyway, I struggled and I was determined to keep, because the last thing Bill said to me, you've got to keep the place for the children. And I was determined to do it somehow. So, I borrowed money, very close to $1 million, and we were still sort of paying it off.
She says that she'd be lying awake at night, with all these problems and all this debt, and no one to sort of talk to and to help us. So it was a really hard time.
Come on. Bill died in February, and TikTok was born in October, same year. But sadly, he didn't see him, no. It was very sad because we'd planned this between us. From the day he was born, he was special. He had the most beautiful sort of arched neck as a foal. It was just lovely and very strong bone. And I thought, I've got it. This is it.
I started riding TikTok in 1983. He even went to pony club jamborees and things like that. Whatever he went in, he was, he excelled. He was just brilliant. And then I went to Sydney, so I didn't ride him anymore. Yeah, I do wish that, I'd kept on riding and see how far we could have gone together, but it wasn't to be.
When Lisa decided to get a job in Sydney, I decided the horse was far too good just leave sitting in the paddock. And I've got to get that horse. I've got to get someone to ride him.
I was offered TikTok from Bud just before I came over here to the UK 12 years ago.
That's the boy. Good fella. Come on, trot on. Trot on.
I rode the horse at a competition, thought, this feels really good. And I think I can sort of do something with this. I didn't know how much I was going to do with it, but I thought, yes, I'd really like to take this horse to England.
Barney, my youngest son, and I took him down and handed him over to Matt and sort of said, well, no, here he is. He's yours. Do what you can with him. Yeah, it was sad to see him go, but wonderful to see that he's going to have an international chance, because I had so much faith in him. Tremendous faith in him.
Barney left school in 1987, came back to work on the place for a year and bought a motorbike. Was driving down to Sydney Royal, actually, and he was going to come and stay with me down in Sydney, and had an accident on the way down there. The bike swerved and went straight under a car coming the other way. It was an absolute tragedy. Yeah. And that was, I think, I'd had a long time to get ready for Bill's death. About 7 years it took for him to be diagnosed with emphysema and die. So we'd had time to plan, but when a child goes so quickly, it's not easy. It was only friends that really helped me, and the fact that my horses were doing so well. And I really buried myself in my horses and kept on breeding and breeding and breeding. And that sort of takes your mind off what might have been. Well, she was able to go to England, to get away from Australia, to get away from Kibah and all the memories.
Come on. Torch. Here's breakfast. Torch, come on.
She was able to follow TikTok around and all the other horses that other people have been riding for her. So it's been a great release over the years.
For Australia, young Matt Ryan with Bud Hyem's Kibah TikTok.
One of the quirky problems that I had with TikTok was the show jumping phase, and that must have frustrated the hell out of Bud, because her speciality was show jumping, and the fact that that was my weakest link in the three-day eventing must have really annoyed her.
He was asking the horse to stand off too far from his fences, and I kept saying to Matt, look, get him in deeper and do that. And Matt was a little bit pig-headed, but all good riders are a bit. They're a bit know-it-all.
She would send me photos of other people riding him at top level show jumping, saying, "See, Matt, he can actually jump really well. Get your ass in gear."
Just be a little more positive to it. Don't let that bike wobble. Come on, come on. Good, and again.
And it was 3 or 4 days after that he rang up and said, "Oh, Bud, I've decided I'm going to go and get some show jumping lessons. Would you come with me?" He said, "Oh, I've asked Captain Mark Phillips to help me." And Captain Phillips said to him, he said, "The horse might have a few problems, Matt, but so have you." And I thought, wacky dack, no, someone at last other than me has sort of said that he did have a problem.
The biggest breakthrough came from the training camp just prior to the Barcelona Olympics in '92, sought me out, so to speak. And ever since then, not only did it help me show jump TikTok, but all the other horses I've had since I've benefited.
That'll do. That's nice. That's good.
It was absolutely fantastic time, 1992, and we went to Barcelona, and it was just amazing, to see the team and to be in another country and to see the horses, and gosh.
Remember, Matt has 3 fences in hand for gold, with 6 to jump.
Look how they've captured that jump. He's just jumped it superbly. Oh, it's terrific coverage, isn't it?
It is great coverage. It does TikTok justice.
Startle a horse into jumping. Good. Excellent.
Yeah, coming into the final show jumping round at Barcelona, my record of knocking so many goddamn rails down was sort of everyone knew it. I actually felt reasonably confident. I probably had no right to.
And everyone was thinking, oh, God, gold medal, and here's the horse that knocks all these fences down. Oh, gosh, that was fantastic. Goes out and he does the most beautiful clear round.
This is for gold. Come on, Matt. Come on, Kibah. 2, 3.
It was just magical. I'll never forget it as long as I live.
Yes. Gold, Australia. Matt Ryan from New South Wales, the first gold medalist in equestrian for Australia since 1960. Well, the Australians flocking in to compliment Kibah TikTok. Well done, boy.
Bill and I'd always planned to breed our kids and our horses, and I'm delighted that the horse has gone on and done what he's done. I keep thinking, oh, God, Bill would have loved this. He would have loved to have seen that horse, yeah.
TikTok retired at the age of 18. I always felt that bringing TikTok back to Australia, where he was born, where he grew up, where he lived, back to Bud, because Bud still owns him, that would be the best thing for him, best place for him to be to retire.
Well, I couldn't afford to. It was $25,000, something like that, to bring him home, and we've had to watch our pennies here since Bill died, and I thought, well, that's wasting money, is to bring the old horse home. He's done everything over there. He may as well stay there, much as I'd love to have seen him home.
Okay, chauffeur, take us home.
November last year saw a dream come true, a moment former Olympian Bridget Hyem thought she'd never see. Her Gunnedah-bred Kibah TikTok returned home.
So he spent his first few years retirement over in England, and then in 1999 Matt Ryan's mother Sue organised with Women's Day to bring him back to Australia. We were at the quarantine station in Melbourne, and he was out having a pick of grass, and we just went Ticky, because that's what we used to call him, and he pricked his ears, and it was just gorgeous. It was very emotional. Some people say horses have got short memories, but he knew where he was. Since TikTok's retired, he's home and fat and very happy, and
will be given the job of looking after all the weanlings as soon as they're old enough to go out in the paddock with him. Perhaps tell them how good it is to get overseas if you're good enough.
It's only a few days since Bridget Hyem was notified she's to carry the Olympic torch through Gunnedah. But Bridget says what would make the occasion even more special is if she was allowed to ride her horse, Kibah TikTok.
TikTok was double gold medal winner, and he was sitting in the paddock doing nothing. And yet I was meant to run with my torch. And I said, but why can't I ride TikTok? I said, he's won more medals than I have.
Well, the town wanted TikTok and Bud to take part in the relay, and the first two applications were rejected by the Torch Relay Committee. So at a meeting we decided that we'd launch a media campaign.
That's when Gunnedah started its struggle to see TikTok included in the Olympic torch relay.
He's an Olympic gold medalist and he's not being allowed to be ridden through Gunnedah. That's a disgrace, I thought. And funny enough, that became quite a good story. And within 36 hours, along with a lot of other people putting pressure on the AOC, bang, there he was allowed to be ridden. So that was terrific.
TikTok seemed to have a real spring in his step that day. The ears pricked and it was very, very impressive and people loved it.
I was offered Kibah Sandstone sort of after the success, obviously, of Kibah TikTok, and Bud probably had a little bit more faith than me there.
Sandstone is a half-brother to TikTok. They're both out of the same mare. He was a little bit more difficult to ride than TikTok. I think Matt had a lot more trouble with him. But, yeah, the brilliance was there.
They are quite similar in their own personalities. Like, they're not over-friendly people, but that's about the only similarity in them. As far as their looks, their way of going, they're very, very different.
Matt Ryan, Kibah Sandstone.
Ryan followed around this course by a cheering crowd.
Winning another gold medal riding Kibah Sandstone in Sydney was, by the jings, it was just fantastic.
I've never seen such a flawless performance over dressage, cross-country and show jumping by all four members of that team.
I mean, the coverage that you see, you know, you look at it and you don't really appreciate it, but in the middle there, when we were winning or were presented with our medals, and it was just amazing. Luckily, the coverage doesn't show that I was crying a little bit. I was just grinning from ear to ear, but sort of behind the scenes, just whoa, incredible.
I reckon that's one of the greatest teams there's ever been in this 4-3-day eventing.
Gold medal at Sydney, and TikTok double gold medal. It's been a dream come true, that how I wanted to go on breeding my horses.
No one in the world has bred two Olympic gold medal horses, let alone from the same mare. And she goes back to Dinah, little black mare that Grandad bought for £2.10. And to see that bloodline continue over the generations into these two brilliant eventers has been something really special. It's not a lucrative business, breeding horses. It probably could be if you wanted it to be, but Mum has this attitude that she doesn't want to sell her horses. She'd prefer to own them, so, you know, they're hers when they're out there doing well. The property, you know, has found it hard with all the money going into horses.
Stop him from beating you down the hallway and Builder stops and comes back.
A few years ago, I handed the property over to Jamie to run. I'd certainly had enough. But sadly, we had to put the property on the market recently because Jamie decided that he didn't want his sons or himself to carry on the burden of the debt on the place that was left by death duties when Bill died. And I can understand that, so it's just got to go, I'm afraid. It's all very sad.
The property's been in the family since 1907, and it's the largest, or one of the largest, individual properties in the whole of the northwest. That is a little slice of history, and of course it's always sad when that goes.
Well, I hoped I'd go out in a casket, quite honestly. The very thought of living anywhere else just doesn't please me at all. In fact, I wouldn't know where to go. Jamie said the other day, Mum, it's about time you booked yourself into an old people's home. And I nearly socked him on. No, that's not my lifestyle. I'll have to buy a little property somewhere. As long as I've got a few horses around, I'll be reasonably happy, and my grandkids not too far away.
She'll buy a place somewhere with, a couple of 100 acres, take all the horses with her, which is 60 at the moment, and keep on muddling along with ponies.
Torch, yeah. Come on, look.
Well, it'll be very, very sad leaving Kibah, and we do. But I've still got all my horse bloodlines, and I've got a most gorgeous filly now called Torch, and she was born 2 days before the Torch relay went through Gunnedah. Torch actually is TikTok's niece. She's out of a half-sister to him. So she's got a hell of a lot to live up to. But conformation-wise and so far temperament and everything else, she's going to be something special, I think. So the bloodlines there should carry us maybe to another gold, you never know. She's a lovely filly, and I have tremendous hopes for her.
Hold her head up, shorten your reins, and keep your hands still, darling. They're jiggling everywhere. Look at Grandy's hands, like that. Side on, up and down, darling. Being naughty, is she? That's better. Good girl. Come on, TikTok, put your head up here. Come on. Come on. There's your little niece, eh? What do you think of her? A beauty? Eh? She's pretty good, isn't she? I see. Don't be awfully impressed. She's very special. Very, very special. So are you.